assemble things. This is a ladies 26-inch Rock Creek bike from Huffy. We bought it through Walmart for less than $100, and I'm going to put it together today. So please come along with me. Let's get to work. I noticed when I was unboxing this bike that there are instructions there with the seat. This is taped. It's tempting to take this thing and just slice the tape. However, there's a leather seat right under this. So let's be very careful how we get this off. I think what I'd rather do is just tear this cardboard and just peel it off, okay? So the seat is in perfect condition, no cuts. All right, here's the instruction. Oh, that's the tag. Here's the instructions in a Ziploc bag. Nothing like fresh instructions. Owner's manual for mountain bikes. There's all the pieces. If you're really bored, you can go through and make sure that all the pieces are here. I'm going to assume that until proven otherwise. Here's all the tools you need: pliers, screwdrivers, wrenches, Allen wrenches. I have all of those nearby. Safety, blah, blah, blah. Warning, blah, blah, blah. Handlebar installation. I'm going to assume that this is where you start. Page 10. So I'm going to read these instructions and then I'll just perform them for you. I won't read them to you. So these instructions assume that the bike is fully unwrapped, which it is not. So I'm going to go ahead and complete that job now. They did a good job packing it. There's all kinds of packing material. Just pull this off. It's like a hotel door hanger. Hang that on your door if you want. And then this piece right here that I thought might be important is not. It's just packing. And it protected this bolt from the world during shipping. So that's fully unpacked. And then the bicycle itself, we're going to get the handlebars loose by snipping this one tie wrap. And you can't go very far with the handlebars because all the brake lines are already connected, so that's fine. Go ahead and unwrap the cardboard. So this is just masking tape holding these cardboard on. You can just get it with your fingernail probably. So go ahead and open our box of hardware while we're at it. This has the pedals in it, and I don't know what that is. That may be a bottle holder or something. And then we'll take this protective cap off of the handlebar stem. And I think we're ready to assemble. Loosen this bolt up here. It takes an Allen wrench. Actually, I can do it with my hand. It's already kind of loose. Just loosen it a little bit so that this will slip down into the bike right here. The fork lock nut. Okay, and we're just going to put that in there roughly backwards. Okay, let's don't do that. Okay, I'm going to just set this upright. The forks will keep it from falling over. So you've got 1, 2, 3 points of contact. I'm pretty sure the handlebars need to go this way, but it looks like the lines are very twisted when you do that. I mean, you can put it on this way, but all the brake lines look like they're struggling to get to their destination. This is the way. Oh, how about if we turn the fork around like it's supposed to be? There we go. I had the fork backwards, so don't do that. All right, now, with the fork the way it's supposed to be, that's on that side, that's like that, that comes down here, that's on that side. Okay, that's much better. So the brakes go in front. If I look at the picture in the instructions, that's the case. And you put the handlebar in, and of course the brake handles also go in front. So you could just insert this into the stem, Tighten the stem bolt just enough to hold it in position. So we'll need an Allen wrench for that. Okay, time to answer that eternal question. Metric or standard? Standard, okay. So this is a 7/32 Allen wrench I have. Actually, there may be a metric equivalent, but this is doing the job. So I'm just going to make sure that this little bar here is in line with the rest of the bike. And with the forks, really, because it turns, right? So, got the forks lined up, the bike lined up. Nothing like the feeling of a warped steering system on a bike. But we can adjust this later too if it's not right. We'll get it right in the end. Okay, so I'm just tightening that just to hold it in place. The instructions say to tighten the handlebar clamp nut just enough to hold it in place. Well, it's held in place. They must have tightened it at the factory, so we won't worry about that. But if yours is loose, you could tighten it. This is all adjustable. This is the clamp nut. This is the stem nut. This is for my sister-in-law, so I will get her to get on the bike and we'll get everything adjusted to her size and later, but I'll just assemble it now. Okay, these instructions are made for several different varieties of bikes, so it's telling me all kinds of things about how to install the stem and handlebar and different models. Okay, installing the front wheel. Loosen the front brakes. Squeeze the two front brake arms together. Lift out brake cable guide from the guide bracket. Squeeze the brakes and it just comes right out, okay? So now the brakes are wide open. We're ready to install the front tire. Looking at this wheel, I don't see any difference as far as which side goes on which side. I mean, it's the same on both sides, so we should be able to just install it. So we want to loosen these nuts pretty loose so that, and there's a washer with a little peg in it. I'm going to assume that that goes on the outside, and it keeps it from, as it spins, tightening itself back up. And that's true of both sides. So we'll loosen these like all the way out so we got plenty of room to work. Then just pick up the forks and set the bike down. You want the washer to be outside the forks in both cases. And then we're going to get this washer and just loosen it up as much as you need to. You might, okay. If you see this little tab on the washer, it goes in this hole, I'm pretty sure. And then we'll just finger tighten that down. Do this the other side the same way. Just loosen it up good. Put that in the hole. Just finger tighten that. Once you've got the wheel attached, you can put the brakes back together. So just hold this bracket out like that, and you can just pull it back like that, and it just goes back into that hole. Okay? So now we have our front wheel installed. We have our brakes, which are working great. This bike came with a kickstand. God bless them. Okay, so we can stand it up. So the next job is to test the tightness of the stem. So this is the stem right here for the handlebars. And what you do is you just put the wheel between your legs and you turn the stem. Well, that wasn't very tight, was it? Okay, let's go ahead and put it back where it's supposed to be. And now that you have a tire in, you can line up the bar on the stem with the tire so that everything looks lined up. Then we'll go ahead and tighten this down. You know, I think this is a metric Allen wrench. Let me see if that's better. Okay, late breaking news. This hex insert key bolt is a 5mm Allen wrench. Okay, so it is metric. 5mm fits much better. You really don't want to strip it out. So if you have a 5mm, please use it. If not, you can use the 7/32. So I'm going to tighten this down pretty good. and try the test again. Now, if you really twist on this, it'll move. It doesn't matter how tight you get this. You can break it loose, but just use your own judgment. You know, you don't want it to be sloppy. And now it holds up pretty good. I never did tighten these nuts down here, so the nuts on the wheel look to be 15 millimeters and righty-tighty. So we're just going to turn this to the right and just snug it down, making sure the little tab is in the fork there from the washer. And we'll do the other side. Okay, and just snug, you know, good tight. You don't want your wheel falling off. And the next thing is to install the seat. This little tag is going to be blowing in the wind, basically telling you what the material is on the seat, just like a pillow thing. Hope the law doesn't come after me for removing that. Before I install the seat, I'm going to just go ahead and adjust this reflector. Interesting. Okay, it kind of snaps in place, so make sure it's snapped in place. It doesn't adjust tilt-wise. I think it's already adjusted to be, you know, with the seat angle, it's already adjusted correctly. But there's a Phillips head screw here. So we're just going to tighten that down a little bit until it starts to get snug. Okay, now that it's, oh man, it's really snug. Once it gets a little snug, then you can like turn the seat so that it's facing you, the back is facing you, and just line the reflector up so that it's facing exactly backwards from the seat. And then tighten that screw the rest of the way down. Okay, that's nice and snug. Now we're just going to insert the seat into the bike. I'm going to lift the seat up a couple of inches, and then you need to hold this nut back here while I tighten this. And you don't want to tighten it all the way down because you're going to use the cam lock, but just hold it straight out so that the cam is not affecting it, and tighten it down till it feels pretty snug. And then you want to end up with this facing forward when it's down, so like that, and then just do the cam. Okay, you can see that's still too loose because it's not holding the seat, so tighten it a little bit more. And actually you can just undo the cam all the way, and that'll allow you some more leverage to tighten it. Now it's getting pretty tight, so we'll go around one more round, and then if you get it too tight, then that's going to be hard to do, but you kind of want it to be a little bit hard to do. And so just clamp it down when you have the seat where you want it and facing relatively forward, then you can clamp it down. This Rock Creek bike comes with a derailleur guard. That's what it looks like, and it goes right there. And I assume what it does is when you get somewhere and throw your bike down like a 12-year-old, it will protect this from getting all scuffed up and knocked over and all that. It'll just be there for you. So you just take these two screws out. It's a Phillips head, or you can use a looks like a 10 millimeter. I'm not sure. Try not to lose the screws when you take them out. And then you just put the screw through the derailleur guard, screw it back in. It's kind of obvious how it goes, I hope. So I'll just get the screw back in there. And put that together. Okay, it has slotted screws, so it's slightly adjustable, so you can put it where you want it, but I'm just going to let it hang straight down, kind of, and tighten that up. Okay. All right, the next fun challenge is to find the tire rating on the side of the tire. As you can see, it just looks like a black tire, but when you shine some light on it, the secret code emerges. Inflate to 40 psi. So we're going to inflate it to 40 psi. It'll be on the rim of the tire somewhere. You just have to spin it around, and if you have a bright light, that's a big help. Before we inflate the tire, we can check the pressure. I'm almost certain it's not going to be 40 psi. No, it's not even registering on the gauge. I have an air filler with the gauge built in, so we can watch that as we go. Okay, you can feel the tire. It's very firm. I'm just squeezing it, and I think I've overfilled it. That's not a problem. Let's check and see what we've got. Yeah, almost 50 psi. So I don't know if you ever noticed on the back of some of these air pressure gauges, a little tab like that presses in to release air. So you just let a little bit out. There's not much air in there, so you don't have to do much. It looks like I let too much out. Now we're at about 35. So it's going to be a fun game. Okay, and I'm just watching my gauge. That seemed to hit right at 40. Let's see if this gauge agrees. Yeah, you can't see the 40, but there it is, you know. So I'm at probably 38. That's going to do. My sister-in-law is very light, so 38 ought to do it. So let's do the same with the front tire. It's a safe assumption that both tires have the same PSI rating. But I checked just to make sure, and they both recommend 40 PSI. Doesn't take very long. And then we'll check it with our gauge. Okay, and there we are at 38 roughly. Okay. Don't forget to put the little cap back on. Okay, I didn't mention that in the other tire, but put your little caps back on. That keeps dirt out of there, and I don't know that it stops any leaking, but it may slow down any leaking through the stem if there is any. After getting the tire inflated and before adjusting the brakes, we want to make sure that the tire is in the middle of the forks. And if you look at it, it's pretty good. If you spin it, it should track fairly straight. This one looks like there's a little bit of a wobble. That involves adjusting spokes and stuff, so I'm not going to get into that in this video. This bike is going to be fine, just like this, I believe. It's not scraping the brakes as I spin it, so that's good. When I pull the brake handle, it just bottoms out. Okay, so we're going to tighten the brakes just a tad so that you don't have to pull them all the way. You know, that can be a panicked feeling when you start applying brakes and nothing happens. So to tighten the brakes, all we have to do is loosen this nut here. And it looks to be a 10 millimeter. Let's see if it is. Yep. So we're going to loosen this nut. And we're just going to pull this cable through. Well, how about that? A little crimp came off the end of the cable. While I was pulling that, this crimp fell off. And I don't want that to ever happen again. So I'm going to re-crimp that. I don't have a crimper specifically for this wire here. But I'm going to use some pliers, or some snippers actually, ones that I used to cut off the tags. So be very careful doing this, because obviously you could cut the crimp right off. So I'm just going to squeeze it kind of gently. See how I crimped it, but I didn't cut it? Let's see if it stays on now. Yeah. And then just give it a pull to make sure it's going to stay on. Disaster averted. Okay, so this is still loose, and we can, well, it's not too loose because it's not pulling through there. So let's loosen this nut up. Good. Okay, so now it's really loose. Okay, see, it just falls open when it's really loose. And what we'll do, make sure that stays in there. What we'll do is we'll pull the cable back through this hole like this. And you can see where it was tightened before. See the flat spot in the cable? So we want it a little tighter, so I'm going to just pull that flat spot about a 1/2 inch past the nut, and that's probably going to do it for us. The other thing is we want to make sure the brakes aren't touching. I'm just looking at it and make sure the brakes aren't touching the wheel. So you don't want the brakes scrubbing. And then tighten this back down. Good. And again, not too tight. You're crushing this cable when you tighten it, so you don't want to tighten it so tight that you crush the cable. All right, now when we pull the brakes up here, you can see they don't bottom out, okay? So like if you're panicking and you just really squeeze it, you can make it bottom out, but it's fully braked right there. So that's good. Now another problem is this brake is just dangling on here, so we need to get an Allen wrench and tighten this, and same on the other side for the rear brakes. It looks like this is a 4mm bolt here, and so let's get the reflector out of the way. That should be right about here. That's a Phillips head. Let's go ahead and tighten that. We'll just tighten down the reflector so that it's not flopping around on the handlebars. And we're going to put it as close to the middle as we can. Obviously, it can't go right on the middle because the stem is there. Okay, and then let's get the brakes all the way up against the handlebars and at a level. And then just tighten that down. Okay, we're dealing with plastic here, so don't go crazy when you're tightening. Actually, there is a metal nut insert back there, but it's inserted into the plastic. It's not a hex. It's just like a splined insert. And we'll do the same on the other side for the rear brake. Just stand it up right and tighten that. I'm hearing a little snap, and I assume that's the splined nut on the other side popping into place. Okay, and then just very gently hand tight. Now the rear brake, I'm squeezing that. It's maxing out right about the same as the other one, so it was in a good place to start with. But we'll also check the rear wheel, make sure it's not crazy out of alignment. There's the brakes, and we're just gonna spin it, okay, and it spins freely. The next thing is to make sure that the brake shoes are in the middle of the rim, or, you know, fairly well. And you can look at this one and see it's a little bit low. So we have a bolt here. I think it's 5mm. Yeah, I have a 5mm bolt here that we're going to loosen. And when that's loose, that just allows the brake pad to slip up and down. So we're going to put it right there on the rim. And actually it's touching the rim, but let's don't worry about that yet. We can adjust that in a second. And also we want to keep it lined up with the rim. You get the maximum braking that way. So that's lined up perfectly with the rim. Do the other side on the front wheel. Now you can see it's lined up with the rim pretty good, but it's tilted. So I'll just loosen that. Hold it lined up with the rim. Tighten it. I know lots of you have already jumped on your bike and you're riding around the neighborhood, but I just really appreciate those of you that stuck with it. Let's do the rear. Okay, you can see this one is lined up well, and it's at the right height and everything, so we're not going to mess with that. We'll just make sure that it's tight, and it is. Okay, and then the other side, similar, but it's a little bit tilted, so I'm gonna I didn't have to loosen it. It's a little bit loose already, so I just tilted it so that it's lined up with the rim fairly well. And now I'm gonna tighten it down. And yeah, it was a little loose. So you want these to be secure. All right, so that's all of those. Okay, you want to make sure that these are tightened securely. And they are 4mm. So far we've used 4 and 5. That one's tight. That one's tight. So it says to adjust these screws until these guys are the same distance from the rim. I didn't notice that screw doing anything. So it says to adjust this screw and squeeze the brake lever 2 times. So I'm not seeing anything happen when I adjust this screw. Let's see. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Not doing absolutely nothing. Let's try it on this side. 1, 2. 2. Okay, that seems to be doing something on the other side. Let's see. Okay, you can see that they're both moving about the same amount, so they should be the same distance from the wheel. Let's spin it. Nothing's scraping, so we're going to leave that. Seems like after you adjust, there should be something you tighten down, but that's how they said to do it. Let's do the rear. So just looking at the rear brake, you can see this one's a little bit further from the rim than this side. This side's almost touching the rim, if you can see that. So I'm going to do the same thing with this one. It says to make sure that the cantilever bolts are tight. They are. Yeah, those came tight. Alright, and then adjust these screws and squeeze the brake. So, dealing with the rear brake now. Well, now that I've squeezed them, they seem to have adjusted themselves. So, I don't know if this screw is supposed to lock it in place or adjust it. Okay, and let's spin it. I guess don't worry too much about this step. I think the brakes kind of self-adjust anyway. If the brakes are scraping, obviously you don't want that. So open them up or move them around or do something. But I think let's don't worry too much about this particular adjustment. I've missed a very important step. I didn't see it in the instructions. Does anybody see anything wrong with this picture? And what I missed is the pedals. You gotta have pedals. Okay, so the pedals are labeled left and right. So right goes on this side. And I'm assuming they're labeled because the threads are different. So the right side just threads right in there normally, righty-tighty. The left side threads in the opposite way. So the left hand pedal tightens to the left. Does that make sense? The right hand pedal is normal right hand threads, and the left hand is left hand threads. Get them pretty far with your fingers, and then we'll need a combo wrench. Let's see what size this is. You'll need a 15mm. I love how everything's multiples of 5 here. 15mm wrench to tighten this all the way down. And just remember as you're tightening the left side that it's left-handed threads. This just has flat spots on either side of the where it bolts in, so it's not like a regular hex nut or anything. And then just get that good and snug. And then on the left side, get that up where I can get to it. And we'll turn it to the left to tighten it. Always feels weird. Okay, good and snug. All right, we've got our pedals on. We've done all of our adjustments. The only adjustment that I have not done is the derailleur. I'm going to try it first before I do anything, make sure that it shifts okay. So it's time for a test drive. Test drive again. Okay, I'm obviously too large for this bike, but it rides very nicely. I'm going to try shifting gears now, so I'll be back in a moment and let you know how it went. Alright, despite feeling like I was riding a child's bike, this thing rode very nicely for a $100 bike. and it shifted well. It has 15 or 18 speeds, I think. 6 shifts on the back and then 3 on the front. Here we go. The Huffy Rock Creek, all done. If you like this video, please give it a like. That helps my channel. And if you want to see more like it, please subscribe. And thanks for watching.